And we are live. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to the Book Club Bros podcast. And we just finished the book of season 2. An absolute marathon. Not really, though, because we finished it in a month. But it was 600 pages, and it was Elon Musk's by Walter Isaacson.
There we go.
And yeah, we just finished it. Part 4. Started from chapter 5, read another 200 pages or something like that. It was crazy. And we finished it off. So, guys, overall thoughts on the book?
We'll say that till the end. I got biggest takeaways for you guys. So
Okay.
be thinking about
True,
that.
true.
Be thinking about that. We didn't do it on the last one because it was a fictional book. So this one, we're back at it. We'll
All
go
right.
with the biggest takeaways.
Well, diving in then. Chapter 75. We got a lot to cover. Father's Day. Crazy.
Yeah.
Starting off, his poor daughter, Jenna, quote, I am no longer with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form, she declared to the court.
So sad.
Sad.
Tough.
So
Yeah, it
sad.
And then later on that day, that's when it gets leaked that he's having his kids with Zillis.
Mm.
Yeah.
That comes out. It was made known to kids that we're just going to have her name, have his name because he lost a daughter. It's crazy that he was sending him all this money
Cut it off.
Yeah.
because he
'cause-
found out he impregnated Jenna again. I was like, stop it.
Yeah.
This guy.
And then he said, yeah, I cannot generate income easily. The alternative for me is starvation, unbearable humiliation, or death by suicide. Death by suicide does not worry me, but it should worry you. The
It
truth
should
is
worry
too
you.
well known. You will be ruined, make no mistake, and people who know who you really are or have become. He blamed Elon's attitude for the National Socialist cruel, self-serving, and cowardly maternal family background, adding that he is wickedness.
All of his children and gets them all together, and that was an interesting experience.
And then he
but-
left. He left super quick.
Yeah.
Because that was the same time when the Tesla thing happened, right? Where the death of the
Yeah,
autopilot.
the crash.
Yeah. Moving on, chapter 76, Starbase Shakeup. This is in 2022. I'm trying to see if I had any key highlights.
He has a cool quote in there on 476 where he's just talking about kind of his destiny. He says there have to be things that inspire you, that move your heart. Being a spacefaring civilization, making science fiction not fiction is one of those. That's what he said during one of his presentations. So I was like, he knows how to, like, just throughout this whole book, he knows how to keep your attention, whether it's by the way he lives his life or what he's saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I actually had another quote on building off that. It says, it's hard to change destiny. You can't do it from a 9 to 5.
Facts.
And then, Miguel, you have anything for that chapter?
No, nothing too major.
All right.
They
Moving
had
on.
they had that little break into the tiki bar during that portion.
Yeah.
That's where they break in and do the in the midst of
engineers.
and they're all drunk, and then he orders the surge because while they were all at the tiki bar, I was like, oh my gosh, he ended up finding out about it too. That's funny.
Yep. Moving on. Optimus Prime, Tesla 2021, 2022. This is going to be crazy when this comes out.
Yeah, it is.
Actually,
Humanoid bot.
Yeah.
that's going to be so crazy because we I actually just saw a talk with Elon or something, and the heart with the hands that they show photo, he was wearing the shirt that had that.
Oh,
And I was
really?
like, I know where
His
that's
merch?
from. Yeah. But
That's cool.
yeah, building out its own human robot Tesla's working on, and trying to see if there's anything. I didn't have anything crazy in that one.
No, I was really just talking about like the
Designing the hand.
yeah, exactly. And just
Talks ab-
see how much they went into that.
talks about putting the charger cord plug as the butt.
Oh, in
dude,
the butt.
He's got like just such a funny sense of
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah, bro.
78 uncertainty. This is in Twitter, July to September 2022. This is he's going back and forth about
Twitter.
Twitter right now. And obviously we know that he buys it eventually, but it was interesting how close he was really to backing out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he basically got forced to, though. He got forced to, and it's so 20. What was it? He asked the bankers what it would be, the price if he took it private, and it was 54.20, and it's like all these things that lined up with 420.
Yeah.
He loved that number. He also went to that party. I thought this was crazy. He just went to a party where he was at a party with Sean Combs, Diddy Combs, Tyler Perry, Emily Ratajkowski. I was like, oh man, there's a lot of stuff going on with Diddy right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just thought
yeah.
that was interesting.
Oh yeah, can't wait to see that biography.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he went on. I'm pretty sure this is where he talks about his diet because that photo comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go on a Ozempic."
Yeah.
Ozemp. So is it?
Yeah,
It's something like that.
Ozempic. Yep.
That's a crazy.
Yeah.
That's a crazy drug.
It is.
But
And then he started intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So,
it worked well.
yeah.
He looks completely different. 79, chapter 79. Optimus is unveiled. A little working one where picture of one of his sons holding Optimus, shaking his hand.
Bro, the hair on fire cologne smell. Like, I don't know what he was thinking with that. It's like, why would, and then people actually bought it too.
Oh yeah,
It's 30,000 orders.
30,000. Yeah.
for
100 apiece.
so
100 a
crazy.
piece. That's why I was like, whenever he
Please
was,
buy my perfume.
whenever he was giving, like, every once in a while, they started to like say how much his businesses were worth. And it doesn't talk much about the Boring Company like at all in here. It like will sprinkle it in. It had the one chapter where it talked about the tunnels that they were supposed to dig that amounted to nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Yet
nothing
you
yet.
look at this
Yeah.
thing and it's like, how is this $1 million, billion, $1 trillion Tesla to come work at Neuralink for this surge?
Yeah,
I'm just like, man, that is wow.
yeah. It's crazy how many like talented people that he can just literally pull. That happened a lot in the
Yeah.
Twitter part.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that, but yeah. AI Day number 2 was a little bit better than the first AI Day with the dancing model and all that.
The connection came loose and they were worried that it wasn't going to work. There's just something about to happen. He's just like, let's just do it.
Pure chaos.
Oh my gosh, 24.
You would never know. You would never know because it actually worked. You
Yes,
know.
bro. And the timelines that they set.
It up like, you know, just they were trying to convince him to do it because he's like, oh, it's going to cost X amount more and it's not necessary. But like they basically have to make it a prop steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just so, like essentially is what they ended up deciding to do because at first he was like, no, like no mirrors, no pedals, no steering wheels. This is me taking responsibility for the decision. So he's always the one to like, you know, it's like I'm in charge of this.
I'm
But
gonna-
like all
yeah.
these other, it's like one of those things where it's just like you don't want to get that far, and then
Like
location for the robo taxis to Austin. So like this is like, it's really fascinating like
yeah, but look
how
on Twitter.
in date this is now.
It was
Right.
so crazy.
this
I
book
didn't
had-
realize it
I
was
would've
gonna
thought
be
this book
this
was
up to date.
I would have thought this book was published like 3 months ago
Yeah.
Yeah.
because like this part it's talking about May 2023, which is less than 1 year ago right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The timing is perfect. Let me just check Elon. But
While you do that, we'll move on to the
yeah,
next
keep
chapter.
on going. 81.
81, let that sink in. This was
That was so funny. bro.
ridiculous.
It was crazy.
He's sitting there trying to get his point across with this humor by bringing in a sink and laughing. It was a viral pun. He said, let that sink in, he exclaimed. Let's party on. Thought that was pretty funny. But the company had instituted a permanent work from home option that allowed this was crazy, like just all the benefits of like, I remember them like whenever, not like Twitter was outed, but like they were saying like he was basically justifying why he's like all this stuff has to change because he's like they're getting paid all this money. They've got 8 times the engineers at Twitter than we have at a space company.
Mhm.
They've got free lunch. They've got mental health days. They've got day of rest each month. They've got work from home if and whenever you want. Free meals on the 9th floor whenever you want.
Crazy.
Like, how in the world
I can't imagine just like.
can you fund that? Like, you just must be swimming in money as a business.
Ad revenue.
But yeah, this is where they talk about, are you going to fire 75% of us? And that's what people were asking him. He's like, no, that number didn't come from me. He said it wasn't exactly denial. Within 3 weeks, that 75% estimate would turn out to be accurate.
It's just so crazy.
It turned out to be a little bit more, but like, yeah.
And Twitter is still functioning. That's crazy. 75% of the workforce gone, and it's still up.
Functioned.
Nothing really changed too much. He likes. I didn't realize he liked hot coffee, super hot.
So he wouldn't drink it too
Microwave.
fast.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't drink it too fast.
I feel like I would burn my mouth though, even then though. But yeah. So then 82, the
Hey,
takeover.
Before you flip the page, that picture, I don't know if you guys have seen the Pappy Van Winkle documentary. Have you guys seen that?
No.
There's a Pappy Van Winkle documentary about how it was like the most sought after bourbon, and people started stealing it and selling it for like thousands of dollars a bottle because it was just like aged perfectly. It was out at this. So then like all the Pappy Van, then like a cop showed up, found out, and did this huge investigation. They go out to this guy's house and they see the kegs and the bottles and the stuff like that.
No.
But yeah, this stuff was like liquid gold.
Yeah,
It was like liquid gold.
Still gotta be.
It probably is
Yeah.
still right now, but yeah.
It's just a lot
Pappy
better.
Van Winkle.
That's funny.
So he's sitting there holding it. I was like, that's like some of the nicest bourbon that you can get.
wow.
But I did find a tweet. It says Optimus and robo-taxis are coming this year.
Wow.
Just like full self-driving.
Yeah, the robo-taxis and CEO Twitter walks in with the sync and basically from there just celebrates, but then
Dude,
slowly
he sets up this plan to like sell these people or to like
Bro,
fire
yes,
these
bro.
people before their stocks.
before their
can-
bonuses.
Yeah.
That was so crazy.
Dude,
Oh my
what?
gosh. And he brought in so many people just to make it happen the proper way. And he was just, they were talking about how it was like a game to him. Like his Polytopia game. He wanted
Yes.
to do it and execute it so well so that he could get all this. And they saved a lot of money doing it, technically.
Yeah.
But
That's crazy.
Did you-
Also,
Yeah, bro,
on the
that's
bottom
a
of 513, it says Pappy Van Winkle, the world's best bourbon. All right. I just had to bring that up.
Did you guys actually I hadn't actually I wanted to start playing Polytopia just to see what the game was
Right.
about.
No, I have not. I hadn't even thought about it.
is it like a
I don't
PC
know.
game?
I have no idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
The thing is, it sounds like probably would take a lot of runs to like, unless they have like skill level.
It
The,
might make it
I don't know. Let me
user-friendly.
look.
I wonder. I'm
Let me look
curious.
at it.
I also thought it was cool. The one thing I highlighted on 514 was one of the first tweaks that he made on Twitter was instead of going to log in when you click on it, it takes you to the explore page to get you kind of like.
No, I thought it was the opposite.
No, it was
No,
you. It was until then when people went to Twitter, the first screen they saw was the login.
Oh, I see.
But then they felt that he should see the explore page to
Yeah.
show what was hot and trending. I was like, that's so smart.
Mm.
He's like, oh, okay, this is what this site is. Let me go ahead and log in and create an account. I was like, I thought that was a really. I mean, it's just little tweaks like that where like it's the same way where it's like, oh, wear your seatbelt to not get in worse danger in a crash. Like, when did they say it was? You didn't have to wear seatbelts until like the 70s or that. I don't remember when it was, but like,
Yeah.
it's
Wasn't a
just
thing.
like common knowledge. Yeah, like wash your hands before you eat
Yeah.
so you don't, get sick as often. Like, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
though. That's a genius idea.
Yeah, here it is. The Battle of Polytopia
On the phone.
on the phone.
Wow.
It actually looks pretty fun.
Oh, dude, what? Imagine they have ranks and stuff like that, and like Elon Musk is number 1 in the world.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I wonder if he dropped a review. But
All right, the Three Musketeers.
Three
chapter
Musketeers,
83.
crazy engineers
Yeah,
here.
bro.
They went all over the place. They went from Tesla to Twitter to SpaceX, back to Twitter. Yeah, these James, Andrew, and Ross.
So 2 of them were his
Tesla,
family
right?
members. His family members. James Musk.
Oh, James
and
Musk.
Andrew Musk.
Yeah, and then there was supposed to be a
And then there was
third,
a third one who was what was his name?
but he stayed at Tesla.
Yeah, but I forget his name. We'll maybe see it later.
Yeah.
That was crazy how he recruited him over there. He basically told him to. He says that Valen told him to
Right.
come help with the Twitter takeover on his girlfriend's birthday, but she understood.
No, this was crazy. They had to go through all that code and just like sift through it and try to see who was actually making good codes, and then they went from doing that to going into let's make groups because it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of just taking the best ones, take the ones that work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's crazy. They said they had to just see if any of them should survive. Like, I mean, because, yeah, they did it in a few different ways. I don't know if we talked about it in this chapter where it's like they started off by getting rid of anyone who just wrote bad codes
Yeah, didn't write any.
or didn't write anything.
Yeah.
And then they went through with the people like who weren't writing good enough code. So like now we're going to weed out the people that just aren't skilled enough, essentially. But
Yeah. But there was some pushback. He said, I forget where it was. Someone said, I don't know if it was the Musketeer or not, but it's Milan Kovac. Now less intimidated by Musk than he was early in the Optimus days, explaining why more were necessary. He's talking about pushback for having engineers in the teams. I don't understand why every single person that works at a social media company has to have a 160 IQ and work 20 hours a day. He has said some people need to be good at selling, others need to be more emotional skills of good managers. Some are merely uploading user video and don't have to be superstars. So which was good that he actually pushed back, and I think, but Musk did not agree.
No, that's just, you can't work for him.
Yeah.
Like that's what I kind of came to kind of conclude from all this stuff. It's like he was never gonna acquire a company and let it just be run typically.
Yeah.
Like anything that he had his imprint on.
Yeah.
Was like, available to get blown up at any point and just like have some type of surge. I thought it was kind of cool just to flashback a little bit where it talks about how Twitter was or had acquired Periscope and then killed it off, and then he was trying to bring back the person who ran Periscope for a little bit. He didn't end up doing it, but he just said he didn't end up seeing a role for him. He probably didn't but I thought it was like, Twitter had 2,500 software engineers. We have 150 on autopilot. I want to get that number down to the same at Twitter. I was just like, holy cow, that would have been a layoff of more than 90%.
That's crazy. That's a lot of engineers.
Yeah, bro.
A lot of engineers for Twitter.
And it says in close to 90% of the teams were let go.
Yeah.
In a 3-round bloodbath. Yeah, like they said at first, they just laid off people. Like they did it in a few different ways, but yeah, it's nuts.
Moving on, content moderation.
Ooh,
this gets spicy.
Gets a little spicy.
Twitter, October 20. This is all. This entire chapter is 3 days.
Yeah.
Goes to a party. Goes to the Donda 2 party with Kanye.
So crazy.
Dude, he's in.
Bro, he's people know him and he's just invited to all these things.
He's a celebrity
it's
to
so
celebrities.
Wild. Yeah. But he tried to give Kanye, and then he said, what did he say? I'll wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, and then Twitter banned him. Like, dang, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, that's when you started realizing like trying to regulate all this stuff might be a little bit more than just,
It's a tough formula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a.
I think he's got the right mindset though.
That's the
you know,
thing.
what is
For
it?
sure. Yeah.
Have no one. You don't have to amplify it,
Mm-hmm.
but don't restrict it.
Yeah.
The problem is for every 3 of us to think he's got the right mindset, there's 3 people that's gonna not.
Oh, for
That's just
sure.
the thing with this thing.
For sure. But speaking of pushback, Joel Roth was kind of like his opposite. Definitely.
He was the content moderator, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was a left-leaning Democrat
Mm-hmm.
with some Republican tweets.
But he was willing to work with Musk on everything, and actually had a fair point of view, like relatively non-biased
Mm-hmm.
when it came to his decisions at Twitter compared to his tweets earlier.
I thought it was crazy how he took up the. He's like, okay, you're gonna stay. Like, I need the names of 10 people that you trust
Mm-hmm.
and trust with your life, because if they mess up, you're fired.
Yeah.
They're fired and you're fired.
Yeah.
I was like, that's one way to ensure that someone's not just gonna not do the due diligence of getting you the best people if you attach your career to them.
Yeah, because he had the tools on Twitter to to play God, which is so crazy.
Dude,
it
was so shady. It was so, oh my gosh, shady.
But then first thing request from Musk was to bring back Babylon Bee, conservative humor site that Musk liked, and there was that one. Yeah, they got banned for misgendering policy, satirically anointing Rachel Levine, a transgender woman in the Biden administration, as Man of the Year. And that went back and forth.
They agreed on some stuff, like like he basically was like, you can't. It was like hate crimes and stuff like that. Like, you can have opinions and you can do stuff like that. Like, he even had the opinions where it's like sticks and stones, but like you can't threaten to kill somebody and all this stuff like that. And Roth was like, I tend to agree. I thought it was interesting how they use Slack. Do you see they use Slack messages?
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that we've used a little bit before. This is where they introduce the Twitter files. They talk a little bit about shadow banning and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, man, like, it's one of those conspiracies and stuff like that.
It is real.
Like, it's real.
It is real.
It's real.
But
right after he took over, there's some ugly shifts. Like, they talk about how the use of the N-word went up 500% in the 12 hours after Musk took control.
Oh yeah, because he tweeted like something about like the free speech and stuff like that, and people were trying to
And he find out it's a bunch of trolls and stuff like that. That's
yeah,
why
it's all
he's
fake.
trying to get.
Yeah,
That's why he's trying to get people to not have so many like anonymous accounts and stuff, and that's why he wants like the paid for subscription type thing.
Yep.
For the most part, but
yeah.
more than 50,000. Repeat tweets repeatedly using a particular slur came from just 300 accounts. So it's just like that's where you're just like what, like that's how you know that these are just people trolling, which
Yeah.
is awful way to troll, but it's the way they do it.
Moving on, chapter 85, Halloween on October 22 with his mom. I don't have anything too crazy. Just these parties, man. I want to go to one of these parties.
No, you don't.
Just dressed up. It's so crazy, but just like what people actually go through. Like you dressing up, it's got to be fun. There's got to be some fun ones.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some crazy ones too. I mean, especially if P Diddy is there.
Yeah.
But talks about his Twitter account and how he says I am who I am. Like he just kind of takes accountability that like I'm not gonna. He never once said he was like gonna try and censor his tweets. Like he'll tweet something and say it was a mistake, but it doesn't like. I feel like he's one of those people where it doesn't register, where he's just like I got to do better. He's just like I just made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You guys like, and it's just whatever the news is today isn't the news tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is just it's kind of unfortunate a little bit just because there's that much stuff going on, but like it's also the reality.
Yeah.
He can say something, it'll just be something different tomorrow.
Moving on, blue checks. This was crazy. I remember when this was announced.
Yeah.
And everyone was up in arms.
Yeah.
Dude, this is my favorite part of Twitter.
The blue checks?
Well, not the blue check specifically, the bird watch, which is now community notes.
Oh, I think that's so good.
That's one of my favorite parts of Twitter because there's so much fake out there now.
Yeah.
I was like, this is such a great just element to Twitter to have that on there. Birdwatch is, I mean, community notes is a little bit simple. I like Birdwatch, but yeah, but the Twitter blue check marks is what you were talking about, and that was the whole idea to create the authentication badge for people willing to pay a monthly fee.
Yeah.
Which is a risk, man. It's a risk if you think back to it. Because, I mean, it's you've probably seen it before. It's a running joke like, oh, this person paid for Twitter or paid for a check mark anytime you like comment on a post, and if you're just like a regular Joe.
Yeah.
But like you also get benefits along with it, which I've never done it. I've never paid for it before, but like you also get some other benefits to go along with it. Like I think you can tweet longer videos and you can do some other stuff like that too.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
But
I didn't know they did all that with that.
Yeah.
It was just the blue check and you pay for it.
No, there's some benefits behind it.
Yeah, it's like you're obviously verified. You get like longer threads, like better viewers. I don't think there is ads. There might be ads. I can't remember.
You can probably
and then like your tweets are amplified too, so they'll actually reach a broader audience compared to not. But what didn't happen is, also while this was going on, there was an adpocalypse on Twitter. People were just losing it left and right. So this was kind of Elon Musk's kind of, say, hey, we have this many people. If people pay just $8 a month, we don't need to rely on those people as much. But then is it this?
They talk a little bit in this chapter about how like the whole idea, how they had to shut it down because once they launched it, people started
the parody.
Impersonating.
Crazy.
They started just impersonating him. Like what were a few examples was like,
the drug company.
We're excited to announce insulin is free now. Coca-Cola said if this gets 1,000 retweets, we'll put cocaine back in Coca-Cola. Tesla even had one where it said our cars do not respect school zone speed limits. F them kids.
It's crazy.
Breaking a second Tesla hit the World Trade Center. Like, this is just like, so then it had to be like, okay, the following day he decided to suspend the entire Twitter Blue experiment for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So he launched it and then had to like let it go. It's just
crazy.
Like,
yeah, that was some ramifications though, because that one tweet about the insulin being free dropped the company stock like 5% or something crazy.
You don't realize the ripple effects on all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
social media is power.
This is where he also talks about no more remote work from home. He floats that idea, and this
Yep.
chapter says no more of that.
Yep.
He also finds out the problem with Apple having the 30% cut on out of the App Store.
Yeah.
Thought that was interesting, and the fact that they don't allow you to collect data.
Yeah. For the
That was
payment.
that was kind of a cool thing, like how Apple protects your data from other apps that are trying to use it, and
Mhm.
he wanted access to that to be able to increase ads and certain things like that. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you wanted to get their payment info so he could use it for like purchasing a ROM, but he couldn't. Yeah. And we'll go through that too. There's like a whole Apple chapter in here, right? I think so. 87 all in on Twitter. This is the second round of layoffs.
Dude, I put a star
more.
by this picture on the opening of the chapter. I remember this being tweeted out.
Yeah.
I literally remember this exact photo whenever he was taking it over, seeing it on Twitter, like he's saying these are the best engineers and stuff like that were ready to take over Twitter, and that was years ago now.
Yeah.
But I vividly remember seeing that photo taken.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. But
Start sleeping at Twitter headquarters now.
yep, and just keeps on going through the code reviews, basically just trying to just keep cutting and cutting and cutting as much as possible. They called it what? It was like floor 10 in the building. They called it the hot box.
Mm-hmm.
We're just windowless,
Yeah.
big conference room that Musk was now using as his room. Yeah,
He fired the one guy who wrote a command that could take down the entire data center.
wild.
What?
Yeah,
Immediately
Hearing those-
immediately cut off his access and fired him.
yes, dude.
Yeah, because they were coming through trying to see okay, who once they did their first wave of layoffs of the people who weren't working, then they did another wave of people that weren't skilled enough, and then they did another wave of people who didn't seem they wanted to be there.
Oh yes,
That was the third wave.
yeah,
That's kind of what this was.
Yeah, the email. Yeah. What was it? Click.
I like the way that they set it up. At first, they were gonna be like, "Hey, choose if you want severance," and that's how they were gonna phrase it. Choose if you want your severance package, and then he's like, "No, I got a better idea. Choose if you want to opt in."
Yeah, opt in.
He wanted to make them opt in, have the option. And honestly, it was a good percentage of the people did. They said it was out of 3,600 remaining employees, 2,492 said yes.
Yeah.
And they were all taking bets. Some of them had 2,000, some of them had 21,
Yeah,
just
1,800.
1,800. And it ended up being a good percentage of it, about 70%.
Yeah. Moving on, hardcore Twitter. This is still crunching all the numbers and stuff like that. Started reinstating a bunch of people. Kathy Griffin, Jordan Peterson, Babylon B started. And
He
then
rolls out his visibility filtering.
that, and also puts out the poll for seeing if Trump should be added or not again. And it was a poll. He did a poll, which is crazy.
I thought it was crazy that he literally is this is where you see the visibility filtering, where it's negative, and if you tweet something that's bad, it's going to be pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, it's going to be harder to find it, all the stuff like that, where it's it's really walking the line of free speech.
Yeah.
It's really walking the line of free speech. But yeah, that poll was crazy. Yeah, he said, look what I just tweeted. It was a poll, reinstate Trump, yes or no.
15 million people voted.
51%, 51.8
48
said yes, and then he's like,
Woo.
okay, Trump's gonna be, the people have spoken. Trump is reinstated.
Yeah. And then
Talks a little bit about how once the dust finally settled, there was 75% of the Twitter workforce had been cut, just under 8,000 employees when Musk took over, and by mid-December there were just over 2,000.
Oh, and then here's the Apple visit right here. So then, yeah, he does. So, yeah, the whole issue with the Apple about the payments, he actually visits Apple, talks to Tim Cook, nice guy. They seem good. Nothing, I actually seem like one of the billionaires that they somewhat get along. He said, they gave him a tour of Apple, and they talked about just
He said
production
Apple
issues.
headquarters is crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder, have you ever seen pictures of it?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen pictures
Yeah,
of it?
you should look it up. It's crazy.
Really?
It's wild.
It's apparently nuts.
ginormous. Yeah. But
Yeah, they come to an agreement as far as the, what was it, the sharing information, or was it?
Yeah.
And then he said that the 30% that he was worried about from the App Store was actually basically 15% over time, so that was better. And he said but he chose that. He said that'll just be a future battle they can fight.
yeah. So that would be crazy because that means it's coming. That feud. we'll see. Moving on, chapter 89, Miracles, Neuralink. Back to Neuralink, which is crazy how they just figuring out. They moved everything to Texas. They had a pig farm right next to the facility.
And this is when they try and expand what they even thought they were going to do. They didn't want to do the whole monkeys, like teaching monkeys how to do stuff and that. They were like, we think we can get a paralyzed person to walk and use their limbs again.
Yeah.
By bypassing like certain like spinal cord blockage stuff. I was like, that is nuts.
Yeah. We can give
That
people
would be
crazy
nuts.
vision. You want to see infrared?
Oh my
Ultraviolet? How
yo.
about radio waves or radar?
Oh my gosh.
What?
That's ridiculous. It's like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. But
Back to the Twitter files, chapter 90.
yeah, and this is where it gets crazy. So yeah, so then Twitter or Elon invites Matt Taibbi first, and then also brings on Barry Weiss to go through and basically just give an independent, basically access to everything that they need to go through and just see what they can find. And then,
They figure out there's a lot of stuff that was swept under the rug.
yeah, a lot of shady stuff.
This is when they officially launched what became known as the Twitter files.
Yep. And then they find out, oh yeah, where is it? Tabby's initial 37 tweet thread showed how Twitter had set up special systems for politicians, the FBI, and intelligence agencies to provide input on what tweets should be considered for deletion.
Talks a little bit about the scandal that was going on with Joe Biden's son
Yeah,
and his laptop.
the New York
and
Post.
gosh.
Crazy.
Twitter was like collaborating with the FBI
Proactively too,
proactively.
which was crazy. Yeah, it was just like another arm. And then
This is where she gets really frustrated about how she's like, oh, we're having this guy was looking into it and was basically one of the people they were working with, and she's like recognizes the name.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
like,
Jim
Jim
Baker.
what gets his name. She's like, you're literally asking the guy to do searches on himself. That's like asking Al Capone to look into his own taxes.
yes, Jim Baker was the general counsel for Twitter and the FBI. So yeah, he has been
Like a double agent.
literally. So instantly, when Musk found out, they fired him. And visibility filtering, Twitter files. Really, I mean, we're just trying to get through this stuff, guys. There's so much more detail in here. It's wild, just about Yoel Roth and how. Well, I guess we get to him too.
There's a little bit of.
when he
This
leaves.
is where they talk about how they don't do shadow banning, but they do visibility filtering.
Yeah,
There's slight differences and stuff like that there, but. I
But-
mean,
it wasn't all fair and games though, because on chapter 91, the Elon Jet
oh yeah.
profile. This is where Elon kind of goes back on his word and isn't all about free speech, because he's claiming that so basically,
So a stalker of Grimes.
yeah,
It's
it
a Reggie
was
account.
this Twitter page profile tracked Elon's jet. So whenever he flew, it's all public record on what the flights are. So he was just using public record and tweeting it out, but
Elon felt like he was getting doxxed.
right, feeling doxxed. And then, yeah, like you said about Grimes, longtime stalker of Grimes had been lurking for a day on the road around the house where she and Musk were staying in Los Angeles area. At one point, they said he followed a car driven by one of Musk's security detail that was taking Musk's son, and his nanny to the nearby hotel. So, yeah. So, it was kind of scary. So, I understand. But it was interesting.
But Weiss did not see it that way. She
Yeah.
ended up tweeting out something too that basically said, "Oh, he's just the same as how it was," and
Yeah.
then they ended up getting into a little bit of a public dispute, just saying "Oh, okay, yeah, you're trying to have your foot in both worlds."
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's tough. But
but he did say he realized that he'd gone too far eventually.
But he still banned
and-
it. Never reinstated.
Yeah,
And then we had the whole prosecute Fauci,
that was ridiculous.
which is crazy.
Everyone's going off on him for that because it's messing. It's so interesting too. Whenever you're that much of a front-facing figure, where it's just what you do for Twitter affects SpaceX,
Yeah,
StockX,
Tesla. Yeah.
or StockX, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like he would be talking with them, and they would be like, "Look, you gotta relax."
Yeah. Just wild. And then like his father was crazy
reached
too.
back out to him with all these unsolicited messages, but it's crazy because he didn't end up seeing him.
Yeah, because he never
He had
gave him the new
already-
email.
Yeah, he purchased father's email and never gave him the new one.
But then yeah, there was a fallout with Yoel Roth and Twitter because he resigned. He just
Starts
didn't.
calling him a pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just it was getting rough, so he had to leave, but then he was worried about leaving, and then like the people that were diehard Musk followers would actually attack Roth, so he wanted to feel protected. But
Well,
yeah.
The damage was done to Tesla though. By that point, the stock had dropped from 340 down to 156 a share. So like that's where you see that it has nothing to do with Tesla, except it does.
Yeah.
Because he's the CEO.
Crazy.
Which makes you think it's like that's why they were always arguing to like make other people CEOs. Like you can run the business or whatever as a chief executive, but like it may have been a softer blow if it was like whoever it was is the face of the company, and like it's almost like you sold the company
Yeah.
in the eyes of the public.
Right.
Because he doesn't want well, he does. He does and he doesn't. I think that's the problem with it. Like, he doesn't seem like a person who wants all the fame from it, but he wants all the credit.
Mm.
It's like you can't, like, he's like, I don't care about the fame. I just care about the credit. So it's like you can't really relinquish both.
Yeah.
So that's why he basically holds on, it feels like.
But then here is the crazy. We were talking about this off camera. Christmas cappers. This is when they start moving the servers. Where was this? Basically, their lease was coming up on the server infrastructure deal. The facility was costing Twitter more than $100 million a year to run their servers.
I didn't think it was going to be financially viable to stay there.
Yeah, so they decided to move. They moved them to Portland, Oregon, and it says we can't get out safely before 6 to 9 months. Said someone, Sacramento still needs to be around to serve traffic over the years. Basically, Musk just says this makes my brain hurt. I'm sorry, that was not my intention.
So yeah, they talk about all the things you're gonna have to do to like be able to move them, and like they're 2,500 pounds. You're gonna need suction cups and all this stuff like that. You're gonna have to hire moving companies. Just like, nah, we're just gonna do it ourselves.
Yeah. So they just show up on December 23rd, Friday evening, the day after a frustrating infrastructure meeting of how long it would take to move the servers out of Sacramento. It was what? It was they were on a jet, right? And they were just talking about it, and they're like, yeah, let's just do it. And so they just rerouted, landed there, got a U-Haul, and literally just went to there and started unplugging the servers.
Yeah, bro. It's nuts. And then they had the dude picked up $2,000 worth of air tags just so they could track it that way. So crazy.
What?
You get a little bit of the pictures during the family Christmas where you notice that Kimball had stopped following Elon on Twitter just because it had become too much.
Yeah.
He does, and then they ask him too, like, what regrets do you have? Was the question of the Christmas time.
Yep.
And Elon answered, my main regret is how often I stab myself in the thigh with a fork, how often I shoot my own feet and stab myself in the eye. So he's just like, basically he knows he just does a lot of the stuff is self-inflicted, but at the same time it's all like, it's just part of the package. That's kind of what the book kind of wraps up with that we'll get to, but like, you can't really get some of Elon. You can't get all of Elon without getting all of Elon. Like,
Yeah.
Don't know that you can take anything away.
Yeah.
And Jenna wasn't at that Christmas party,
No.
formerly known as Xavier, but they did send her a
She
package.
appreciated it,
Yeah.
right? And then we actually get a little bit more insight on his kids because they're a little bit grown up now. Kai, one of his first kids, 16, absolutely
Geniuses, man.
just brainiac. Outstanding programmer. He could write software and do high school online, which is what Damien has done. I'm not pushing hard because I know there is a social element to school, but he's way too smart for high school. It's kind of ridiculous. He says,
I was trying to just get him to come work for him.
yeah, he said, oh yeah, Damien, after doing high school online, he accepted at one of the top nation's research for the universities, but Musk thought it might not be intellectually challenging enough for him to enroll there as an undergraduate. He's already at graduate level in math and physics. Wow. Just crazy. That family's just wild.
Full of geniuses. Even with X, like he talks about like how the stuff he does that they sprinkle in between. It's like this kid's a genius too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be wild
For real.
seeing them grow up. But then after Christmas, have a nice little break. They jump back in, though, and they go back and they start still taking their servers. And then the NTT, the data center or whatever, supervisors started like putting all these things to throw obstacles in there. They couldn't prop open the door. They had to do a retinal security scan every single time they went in. All that.
Yeah, they made it as difficult as possible for them to move it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The moving contractors that NTT wanted to use charged them $200 an hour. And then someone found where was it? Someone found some guy on like this other company to do it super cheap. And then, what was it? Gave him like 13 grand.
And it was crazy how fast they were able to do it too. Like the previous record for moving those servers in that facility had been 30 in 1 month. They did 700 in 3 days.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
And
And then Elon promised James
The
a
bonus.
$1 million bonus, but he didn't realize that if he had to move them by the end of the year. But he meant that if they were all plugged in, so he just gave him $700,000
Still crazy.
and a stock option package
for Twitter.
accepted both. I'm just like, man, can you imagine that? He's like, oh yeah, now I get to like, do this stuff for my parents, and I was like, you got that much money?
Yeah.
Just wow.
That is crazy, though. That is no joke. 700 of them.
But it ended up being, he did say that was a mistake too, even just trying to shut everything down like that, because
Yeah.
it was a little bit more challenging than he expected. But
Yep.
Yeah, and they didn't wipe the servers before they did it.
Yeah, so there's some data issues for sure. But
then for New Year's Eve, he goes out to,
Mexico.
what was it, Mexico
Yes, I believe so.
or Hawaii?
Oh, Hawaii.
Hawaii to stay at his mentor's house, and I thought it was cool how they had the telescope kind of pointing up towards Mars, and he says this is where you're gonna live someday. Whenever he's talking to X, I'm just
Yeah.
like, man, he's always just in the future.
moving on, chapter 93, coming down to it, AI for cars. This is just an interesting thought
This
process.
is cool.
Yeah.
How Elon's like, all right, ChatGPT starts exploding around here, and he's like, well, we can do our own thing with our computer. And then he's like, well, wait a second, like Tesla can be like the AI of the real world, where compared to ChatGPT.
So Shroff has this project that he launches that's just meant to have a self-driving car system that learns from human behavior,
Yeah.
essentially. The same way ChatGPT
Yep.
is able to do stuff like that from learning from different, and they have so many data points and stuff. Like that's where he like even talks about he doesn't realize how big of an advantage it would be to be able to get all this data from his different like businesses.
Yeah. He said, what
To
would he
use.
say? Tesla's AI would be easier to be ChatGPT than the other way around. But yeah, with all that AI power, they actually took a test drive in April 2023. Put his new neural network to the planner to the test. He took it for a drive through Palo Alto. Schroff and the autopilot team configured the car. Reliant software has been trained by the neural network to imitate human drivers, and it worked out flawlessly.
And part of that too, you don't realize all the intricate details that would have to go into to designing something, because they talk about in the beginning, it's just like you got the basic rules: go when it's green, stay when it's red, proceed through the intersection when there's no cars, don't cross double yellows, all that stuff. But then you have to be like, hey, so like, what do you do whenever there's a branch in the road and you could drive around it if you're a human, but because there's no cars coming, it's just what you would do. You're breaking the rules of driving, but like you don't want to just be stuck there till someone comes and moves the branch.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, then it had to like develop different ways to be able to work around that. I'm like, man, that's something you wouldn't think about initially. You're just trying to create the most perfect driving car that it follows the rules. But like, yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I mean, on his test drive too, he said it was so good at one point.
He
it
started
made
to
a
speed up.
decision for him,
Oh yeah, it made a
That
better
wasn't-
decision than
yeah.
he would have made.
Yeah.
which is crazy. Bro.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary. Not gonna lie.
It's a little bit scary, and plus, and then like it was like cool how you had like the option of like, whenever it was just driving the exact speed limit,
Mhm.
he would just push on the
Press the gas.
gas to be like, okay, we're like we're on a straightaway or whatever it is, like we
Right.
can do this here.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So it turns out the new full self-driving software is 10 times faster and could eventually allow for deletion of over 300,000 lines of code.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But so yeah, full self-driving was working. This is a year ago, so I can't imagine how it is now.
Yeah.
A year better, an entire year of
Reading
it.
this book gave me a clear idea on how long people have been working on some things.
Oh yeah.
Like just certain different things. Like I didn't realize that. Like you talk about scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. Right.
Like some of this stuff that's just getting released to us now when we're all having the same thoughts that they had
right.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever they were just like, oh, what are we going to do? Like AI safety. And that's what they're talking about in 2013 whenever like smartphones just came out.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
what?
And jumping to 94, AI for humans. This was just basically
Talks about opening up his rival
XAI.
AI.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And not
Chat
too much
GPT's
from
crazy. I don't use it too much, but my wife actually uses it a lot.
I use it frequently as well.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she uses it for all kind, like just the most random stuff. I was having to help her make this flyer for like this summer for basketball.
Mhm.
She's like, good summer basketball tournament names. And just puts it in there and it spits out Sunset Showdown, Tropic Hoops Fest, all this stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't even, like, so random.
It's so good. But yeah, I thought this was interesting when they were talking about AI with who was it again? Oh, Zillis.
Mhm.
He says that we had to leave our phones in the house while we
Mm.
sat outside because he said someone could use them to monitor our conversation. But he later agreed that I could use what he said about AI in the book.
Mhm.
But
And then it talks
he-
about what his thing was.
right, he's fully convinced that the phones are listening.
Yeah.
Fully convinced.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. But
I mean, they are though, because there was, I forgot where I was watching, but it was like a breaking story. It's talking about how, even iPhones, like Siri, it technically has to keep listening to you to be able to interact with you off you saying the
right.
phrase.
Right.
Yeah, it happens on my laptop all the time. Like someone will say something, like they'll say series,
Yeah.
like and then all of a sudden, boom, it pops on.
Yeah.
So it's
But-
one of those.
In like the logs, it like tracks prior to you saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
the phrase." I
Right.
don't want to say it because I don't want anybody's phone to go off. But yeah, bro, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That it's always listening like that.
And then we on page 605, I thought this was interesting. He said, I calculated what you mean. He would be running 6 companies: Tesla, SpaceX, its Starlink unit, Twitter, the Boring Company, Neuralink, and XAI. This is 3 times as many as Steve Jobs, which ran Apple and Pixar at his peak. Wild.
Busy man.
And those aren't small companies either.
No, they're not.
No, and just above that, it's just kind of redefining or kind of like talking about his purpose again. So whenever he was talking to Zillis, he was like trying to figure out like she's like, what should your time be spent on? Because he was like having second thoughts about some of like this Twitter stuff and just all that other stuff. And he's like, getting the Starship launched, getting to Mars is now far more pressing. And then he paused and he's like, also, I need to focus on making AI safe. That's why I'm making an AI company.
Yeah.
Like it kind of forecasted in the very beginning of the book where he's just like, I want to make sustainable energy. I want to get people to the moon. And I want to I don't even remember what he said now, but everything is super like just grand
Yeah.
Mhm.
of what he's trying to do. So, I mean, it's not even like some of these other people that like ran a cool tech company like Apple. That's cool for technology, but it's not like
It's not as groundbreaking.
it's not
Right.
as whatever you would
Exactly.
call
Which
it.
is wild.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
trying to literally change the future. It's trying to like that. I look at that as like changing what you can do in the present.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This guy's trying to change the future.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy.
And our final chapter, 95, the Starship launch. So, yeah, I saw this cool quote in there on 608. This is how he says. This is just in general. He said, "This is how civilizations decline. They quit taking risks, and when they quit taking risks, their arteries harden. Every year, there are more referees and fewer doers. That's why America could go could no longer build things like high-speed rail or rockets that go to the moon. When you've had success for too long, you lose desire to take risks.
And another great quote right before that, whenever he's at his conference room before they do the takeoff, he's like, "It's worth keeping in mind as you go." Didn't know the quote was that good.
Anyways.
It's worth keeping in mind when you go through all the tribulations, or it's worth keeping in mind as you go through all the tribulations that the thing you're working on is the coolest effing thing on the earth by a lot. And then he goes, "What's the second coolest? This is far cooler than whatever the second coolest is." I'm just like, he just knows how to put everything in perspective for them
Yeah.
to let them know, like, this is like changing the world. And then, of course, they're supposed to have the countdown. It goes wrong and it ends up being launched on 420.
Yeah.
So, perfect way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
They felt like it was destiny at that point. But the launch goes well for 3 minutes
Yeah.
and something seconds.
Yep.
And then it's fine. And then, of course, in typical fashion, they find out that, like, something probably happened from, like, the takeoff platform not being up to standard, and he didn't do, like, the flame trench and all the stuff like that beneath that. And it's funny to think way back when they started building it, which was like in 2020. He had said this could turn out to be a mistake, but he just went through with it anyways.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be likely what happened. Like, the cement or the rocks like hit one of the engines, messed him up, and then it wasn't able to fire. But
Yeah. I thought it was crazy though, because even though it exploded, everyone was applauding.
yeah, she ended up. He of course he was like, "I would still have to work at Twitter." He told her, which was a polite way of saying he would still be in charge.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, he would end up giving her the title of CEO, and he's the executive chairman and chief technology officer.
Yeah. Absolute wild. That week though, that week breakdown of exactly what happened is so crazy. So much happens.
He
But
got approved to start putting the chips in people's heads shortly after this was published, or shortly before this was published. That was
Yeah.
another thing that they said.
and then
Then it comes down to the final quotes on page 614. It can be hard to remove the dark ones without unraveling the whole cloth. As Shakespeare teaches us, all heroes have flaws, some tragic, some conquered, and those we cast as villains can be complex. Even the best people he wrote are molded out of faults, which was the chapter for that. And then I highlighted his final kind of closing of the book, which is where he says, "It was a pleasing concept, an impulse control button that could diffuse Musk's tweets as well as all the dark impulse actions and demon mode eruptions that leave rubble in his wake. But would a restrained Musk accomplish as much as a Musk unbound? Is being unfiltered and untethered integral to who he is? Could you get the rockets into orbit or the transition to electric vehicles without accepting all aspects of him, hinged and unhinged? Sometimes great innovators are risk-seeking man-children who resist potty training. They can be reckless, cringeworthy, sometimes even toxic. They can also be crazy. Crazy enough to think they can change the world."
that's it.
And that is it.
That's
Boom.
great, bro. It's a good
Ugh.
biography.
Yeah. Just crazy. Just what a life.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
Jumping into our takeaways.
Yeah, to sum it up, what is your guys' biggest takeaways from the book? I wrote down 3 little ones.
I'll go real quick. I think struggle is necessary for one. Struggle is always necessary for you to build yourself into a better person and learn how to become a better person. And the other side of it is the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like, seeing all the stuff that he's gone through and the stuff that he still puts himself through and the relationships that he just has to kind of like say whatever to, it's pretty crazy. But in order for him to get to that position that he's in now, it was necessary. So, yeah, those are my takeaways.
I like it.
Yeah, great book.
yeah. Mine are basically that, hard work is what you need to do if you want to achieve anything big. Like, you got to just work, and achieving giant things like sending people to Mars takes an extreme amount of hard work, and it takes a whole team as well.
Yep.
He wouldn't have been able to do a lot of these build these amazing companies without his amazing team. And yeah, just to keep innovating that way. So yeah, crazy. The amount of work ethic the guy has is relentless.
Ridiculous. My first one was it was more just in a general sense where it's difficult, probably impossible to outrun or escape your childhood. You see throughout the entire course of the book
Yeah.
how like
Yep.
it really just shaped who he was, whether it was for the good or for the bad. Then I had, if you really want to succeed and think you've got it all, think you've given it your all, read this book to see what giving it your all means.
Yeah,
Mhm.
literally.
Because he literally gives every ounce of his being to
Demon
it.
mode.
Yeah.
Then my last one was, it's easy to say we don't know the guy, or easy to say this because we don't know the guy, but for all his personality flaws, I still look at Musk as someone who just wants to change all of humanity for the better and give his entire life and time to it, and I have a ton of respect for that.
Yeah.
He just wants to leave the world in a better place than he found it.
Yeah. Yep. Right. Yeah.
True
Even
story.
agree.
through all
100%.
the being a jerk to people and the relentlessness and the stuff like that, he's so singularly focused on the world being better that he doesn't even care about himself.
Yeah.
He just cares about. So I mean, and it's every once in a while, someone comes along like that.
Yeah.
It's not a million Musks out there. It's not even probably 5.
No, he doesn't even want that many.
Right.
He says you wouldn't want there to be. He says
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to be me anyways.
But yeah, amazing book.
Great book.
Before we do that, are we introducing your new book or are we
Let's
doing short
do it.
snippets?
All right, you thought this book
So yeah,
was long.
that was a wrap of the Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson documentary. And we're moving on to Landon's book.
All right, you guys thought that book was long. I told Chase, why not keep the party rolling? So shut your eyes.
All right. Isaac,
Shut your eyes.
closed.
It's time for the debut. I'll show it to the people first. What do you guys think it is, guys? You see it. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. All right. Book number 2 in season number 2 is gonna be.
What is this, a pamphlet?
Go ahead and open it up. How to Win at the Sport of Business.
Mark Cuban.
By Mark Cuban. So the reason I went for this book, first off, I was down to 2 books.
Okay.
One of them was 480 pages,
Oh, really?
and one of them was 110.
Oh, so page did actually matter.
No, it didn't
Oh,
actually
okay.
matter. It's just
Okay.
I ended up going with this one. But we may circle back to the other one I was looking at. First off, just
good
I
time
joked
actually for
about it. This will be a super easy read for us to get through. It'll give us some time, but also at the same time, this is another person that I've been fascinated by. So it's not a biography though. It's not necessarily a biography. It's more of just like different tactics on. So we're, to be somewhat transparent, like just trying to figure out some different ways to like make our business, more successful outside of this podcast. And he talks a lot about just like what being an entrepreneur is like and certain things like the thing with Elon is he's not really an entrepreneur in the sense of like he's taking other people's ideas and trying to like make them better.
Mhm.
So Mark Cuban kind of talks a little bit more of just like kind of what being an entrepreneur is, different ways, different like just how basically, but he's also competitive. So it's about how to win in this field and stuff like that. So I thought that this would be a fun book to read. It's also going to be a little bit of a easier week to week type task.
Yeah.
But
Oh my goodness.
just for this
All
one,
right,
it's
guys. For this week, we're gonna read 7 pages.
7 pages after reading 20 something a day. So yeah, it'll be a shorter book this time, but yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, after the first 2 books in this season, we're still gonna don't look at it that way. We're gonna have read 700 pages out of our first 2 books.
There. Yeah.
Just
There
600
goes.
came from
It's
one.
average. Yeah.
So it's all comes down to the average. I got to
Cool.
bring that back down. But yeah, this is about Mark Cuban and a little bit of just like kind of his insights to some of his businesses, some of the ups and the downs that he's had, which is something that we can kind of relate to right now. So
Yeah. It's a good time too because he just sold the Mavs.
yeah, and this is also another thing that played into factor is this was just published. So it's a very new book. It's going to be super up to date and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that was another thing I was kind of looking into was I liked the feeling of reading such a relative book
Yeah.
that this is also going to kind of relate to that as well. But
Yeah. That
this
is
gonna-
interesting because he did write this in 2011, so it should be interesting to see what he updated
Mhm.
for from
so
the past 10
10th
years.
anniversary edition. Yep, you're going to get to see stuff like that, and it is a quick one.
Yeah, All right, guys. Well, you know what to do on this. If you are interested in reading along on this thick book right here, this is going to be a hard read. No, just kidding. This will be a nice read for you. Introductory, if you've never done a book club before. How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban himself. We'll be diving into that and reading
20
at the end of the month.
So basically, the amount of pages we had to read per day is what we're reading per week now. So 26 pages is about the first one. So if we want to go, actually, yeah, 20. It's 25 and a half. So if we want to read up to page 25, or do we want to read to page 20?
I think 25 is good.
Yeah, let's just go to 25. So we'll read up to page 25 on How to Win at the Sport of Business.
Sweet.
Mark Cuban.
Awesome. Look forward to this one. This one's going to fit better in my backpack.
True. I know. That one's going to weigh my shelf down.
All right. Jumping in to our short snippets. Miguel, what do we got up first?
Ooh, stay positive and strong. Even when it feels like everything in your life is falling apart, your efforts will soon be rewarded.
I feel that.
Keep the energy.
I like it. Okay. Mine today, I guess it's not really thought-provoking, but it has to do with Elon Musk a little bit. What is your most significant childhood memory?
Ooh.
Most significant.
I say, going back to the Philippines, I was like 5 years old, but I still remember some of the stuff. Like my favorite thing is I went out to this field with my dad, and he was like, look at the plants and just touch all of them. And it was a whole field of Venus flytraps.
Oh, what?
Oh, wow.
It was so crazy. Craziest thing I ever saw.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
my trip
crazy.
to the Philippines. I was 5 years old. I can't believe I still remember.
That's
crazy.
That's a perfect answer to that question. What do you got?
I'd say like a core childhood memory would be like, just like building on your dad, like playing catch with my dad outside, just outside the house, just playing catch. Just just throwing it.
Little background to Chase. He played baseball.
Yeah. He
So
did.
did
He
Landon.
tried. I would say mine would be like getting in the car and going on super long like family vacations.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
we would
road
drive
trips.
we would drive everywhere. So like I had maybe, oh, you know what? I would say one of my craziest ones would be whenever I was like super young. I don't remember exactly what age I was, but we went to go see my great grandma who lived in Texas, and we drove. It was like a 18-hour drive, whatever it was. And we get there, and it was like one of the most fun times ever. We went to a baseball game. It was my first time going to a baseball game. We went to the Astro Stadium. We went to this giant aquarium. I just remember just like being on one of the little conveyor belts where you stand on it, and it just like takes you through, and you're just like looking at all the fish and stuff like that. But at the same time, this was where my grandma had like my great grandma had this backyard that had a bunch of fire ants.
Oh.
And we were out
no.
playing in the backyard, just barefoot, me and my older brother, just having fun. And it didn't really get to him, but I stepped in a fire ant hill, and they were all over my legs.
Over.
Yeah.
All over my legs.
Dang, dude.
I remember just sitting on the back of the van, and my dad's just like trying to get them off me. And they're just all over my legs.
No,
worst.
that is the worst.
Literally the worst.
But that was one of my
Core memory.
very
That's good.
memorable experiences.
Nice.
Vacations.
Very nice.
All right.
Finishing off the podcast with another interesting topic. Am I wrong? This is where we read a comment online, and Miguel and Landon.
Oh, the people know what this is.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I'm giving you 3 options. You get to read the top 3 options, and you let me know which one we want to dive into first. Option number 1, am I wrong for putting a lien on my brother's house for refusing to, am I wrong for putting a lien on my brother's house and refusing to remove it until he pays me back?
A lien?
A lien. Basically, it's like I don't know how you explain it, but it's something that you're forced to pay off if you sell the house or something like that. It's like a way to, like, let's say someone screws you and steals $5,000 from you, and they don't have $5,000 now. You can get like a court order to put a lien on them for $5,000, and like if any asset they buy, if it's a car, if it's a house or something
percentage
like
of it
that,
has to go towards paying you.
they have to pay off the lien first to then
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what the lien is. Second one is, am I wrong for not going to another restaurant after my boyfriend refused to order from where I stopped? Third one, or we'll do 4. Am I wrong for telling my do you know what DIL is?
Daughter-in-law.
Oh, there you go. Am I wrong for telling my daughter-in-law to shut up and she can't sit with me if she can't stop talking? Am I wrong for laughing at my wife's comment?
I don't.
What you feel?
These are interesting. I do want to go with the first one because I want to see what happened. What does he have to?
Should you go for the lean?
Yeah, no.
You want to go lean?
Yeah, I was going.
All right. Am I wrong for putting a lien on my brother's house and refusing to remove it until he pays me? I do house renovations as a business. Even when I do work for family and friends at a discount, I have a contract. My nephews are getting bigger and they want separate rooms. My brother asked me to help him finish his basement, make a couple rooms down there, add a washroom, add a kitchenette, wire up the family room. I priced it out and I would charge him around $32,000 including materials. This was a sizable discount. The bathroom alone, I would charge anyone else $15,000, and I wasn't, and his wasn't even roughed in. He never paid me. He always has excuses. I paid for the material. I paid my guys for their work. We did it, and when I had downtime, so I didn't lose out on other money, but it still sucked to get shafted. So I put a construction lien on the house. He didn't care. I was going to make. He didn't care. I wasn't going to make him homeless. That was 2 years ago. Now he got a new job and he has to move. And to get a new house, he has to sell his current house, which he can't do because there's a lien against his property. He called me to remove it. He promised me he'd pay me as soon as it's sold. I told him to F you and pay me. My parents called me to tell me that they would pay what he owes, and I said I would agree so as long as he paid them back. And if he didn't, then any money he didn't pay had to come out of any inheritance they were getting, God forbid. And that interest started accruing from the day of the loan. They would agree that was fair. My brother called me to scream at me for involving my parents out of the inheritance, and I remind him that he involved them, not me. He finally took out the money from a line of credit and paid me with interest. I am a reasonable man. The house sold over asking, and finished basement made a huge difference on what he got. He's still pissed at me for doing it, but I did everything legal and by the books. Am I wrong?
It's kind of tough. I don't have any siblings, but I do have like very close cousins, so I look at it from that perspective. But I honestly don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting that much of a discount already. Like this is your brother, bro. Like just, get the pay the fee. I mean, putting a lien on there is, I get it. I do understand that, but I mean, he still got off the hook. Like his parents offered to help, so to end it off, I don't think he's wrong for doing that. Get your money. You did the work. You paid people, and you already discounted it. So,
right, Landon.
Yeah, no, same thing, because I feel like it feels like a drastic measure to get the lien, but if you get the lien and then 2 years later it still hasn't paid off, it's a good thing that you got the lien.
exactly.
Like that's where it comes full circle, and it makes sense to me. Where it's just like, yeah, it doesn't seem like this guy was making it a priority to pay you, because it's just a tough feeling. Like as bad as you feel about him forcing you to do that, he feels that bad by just not getting paid for the work that he did.
Right.
Like, I mean, it wasn't, unless it was stated at any given time where it's like, oh, I'll just do this for you. $32,000?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So,
And that's discounted.
and he already paid the other people. So really, he's probably just waiting to pay himself.
Yeah.
Or for whatever it is. So, yeah, I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
And if you have a brother relationship, I can definitely see how it all went sideways like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. No, I don't think he's wrong either. I mean, he did everything proper. I thought it was very interesting though. He was like, "Fine, if you guys are going to pay me the 32 grand, take it out of the inheritance," which is wild. But yeah.
It's only fair because, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting too. I think this is the weird thing, because neither one, well, you actually, you have a sister and you have so like, it's really interesting because, like, one thing, I don't know if you noticed it or tried to take stock of it sometimes, but like, which sibling gets the most help from parents?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's always
It's
a
almost
preference.
never. It's almost like, yeah, from a need, from a whatever's going on, it's
Yeah.
just like, So like, yeah, that definitely plays a factor sometimes,
Yeah.
where it's just, yeah. So
But yeah, no, it is super interesting. But yeah, there you go. That was the Am I Wrong segment of the day, and that's gonna wrap up this episode of Part 4 by Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson, and we're gonna be jumping right into another big book. Divide that by 6. It's like a sixth of it. How to
it's literally
win
a sixth of
at
it.
a sport. How to win at the sport of business by Mark Cuban, guys. So we'll be diving right into that one, and we'll be back with another 25 pages next week.
24.
24.